All right, so today we're talking about habits. We talked about the book James Clear wrote called Atomic Habits. And atomic means the smallest indivisible particle. And so we're thinking tiny habits that we stack together, okay, to form an overall big change in ourselves. And so I have this habits tracker. It's sort of like a goal setter habits tracker with an end result, okay? And so really quick, if you look at the bottom, start here is the tab that we're on. And then there's a tab for each month. So January all the way through December with a year end auto tally. Okay. It's automatically tallying the monthly and the yearly as you're inputting each day. Okay. Now, if you're not a spreadsheet person, that's okay. I don't care if you end up using this spreadsheet per se. I do think it's good and helpful, but I care more that you figure out a system that works for you to measure against your goals. If you set a goal, how are you getting there? How are you reverse engineering it to actually accomplishing it? So let's say that I had a year-end goal of I want to attract 24 agents to my front line. Okay, really simple math. That's 2 average a month. Okay, but how do I know I'm on track each day to meet the month goal, to meet the quarter goal, to meet the year goal? Well, if I'm tracking, I don't have to guess, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the beginning and we're going to talk about where am I now and what am I trying to do? Now, this thing's got some math involved into it that is done for you. So you don't have to think about math. All you have to do is punch in your goals and just see what happens. So I'm going to use Jay, for example. I'm going to pick on you, buddy. And you can feel free to lie or tell me the truth. What's your starting FLQAs right this minute?
Hold on.
Sorry, I put you on the spot. I should have told you to pull up your.
Well, you want? I'll make them accurate.
Yeah, might as well.
11.
Okay, looks like Shiv's entering now. Okay, so we got 11. That's amazing. Now, what is your year-end goal for FLQAs?
I would say 30. Let's say 30.
Wait. You don't already have a goal already? I am mind boggled right now. I thought you'd have that thing plastered on your wall, staring at it every day. All right, let's say you said 30. Okay,
Yeah.
I like it. Now, what's your starting group goal or starting group number? And if yours is 0, that's fine. Just leave it as blank. I know Jay's is not, but some people it's going to be 0. That's fine.
Like starting total group?
Total rev share group.
104.
Okay, and what is your goal for the end of the year? There's no wrong answer here, right?
I would say 225.
Okay. That's all he had to answer. And now we have a lot of information. Okay. And you'll have a copy of this. You'll be able to put in your numbers and figure out what you want to do from here. Side note, there's an inspirational quote at the top of every single page. And so feel free to read those and be inspired. All right. So taking a look at our goals here, starting FLQAs is 11. We want to get to 30. Okay. What's happened is this actually broke it down and said, okay, that's 19, right? It took 30, it subtracted by 19 or by 11 and got 19. And then it went through and it said, okay, on average per month, he needs to be bringing over 2 agents. Now, you and I both know it's probably more like 1.8, but you can't split an agent. So you're going to overestimate, right? You're going to say, okay, instead of 1.8 agents, I'm going to bring over 2 agents every single month. Now, in order for him to get to his goals, he's going to have to attract 2 agents every single month for that to happen. Now, here's one slight caveat. These are FLAs, frontline agents. What's his goal say? FLQA, qualified agents. What does that mean? It means that he can take a risk on some new agents. That's fine. As long as he thinks he can get them up and selling, that's fine. But is his time better spent talking to agents that are probably done with the mentor program and probably going to be a sure thing? I'm going to say yes. Probably should talk to agents that are doing, at least a couple million. at least 1.5 million in volume so that they can become an FLQA. So it's not so much of a question mark, it's more of they just got to get up and running and sell something at EXP to be an FLQA. Okay. Now, I've reversed engineered this based on very average conversion ratios for every step of the way. And I sort of like extrapolated it out. So in order to bring over 2 people on average every month, he's going to have to talk to he's going to have to make, if he was cold caller, not everybody's going to be a cold caller. That's totally fine. But if he was to just make 500 attempts and 20% of the realtors actually answer their phone, that means he's actually speaking to 99 agents. And out of those 99 agents, 25% of them, he's actually able to set a Zoom appointment with. All right. Now, we all know you set a Zoom appointment doesn't mean they're going to show up. Okay. And if they do show up, doesn't mean you're going to get into an explanation of EXP. Let's assume that he's 30% on that. And he's actually able to explain EXP to 7 of those agents. Out of those 7 agents, he's able to get a third-party call with 4 of them. And what do we mean by a third-party call? That means getting me, getting Matt, getting Jeff, getting somebody else on the phone for the next Zoom call. Okay. Now, from that third party and maybe a couple of other follow-ups, he's able to get 50% to a joint application, maybe a letter of intent, maybe the joint application. And 85% of those that complete a joint application will actually become active. Now, why is it not 100%? Well, I wish that it was 100%, but here's what happens, unfortunately. Some people will do the joint application with all good intentions, okay? The problem is the follow through, okay? Or cold feet or whatever. And there are a percentage. I would say that most, and I'm guessing around 85%, if they fill it out, they're probably going to join. But there is that percentage that doesn't, okay? All right. So if I had to break this down, that sounds like a lot of calls. Like, guys, 500 attempts, that's ridiculous. But not really when you break it down. There's 21 work days per month on average, right? 21, 22, depending on the month. All right. That's 24 attempts a day. Not talking to 24 agents, just an attempt. Most of those are going to be voicemails, guys. You know they're not going to answer their phone. Okay. So it seems daunting until you break it down per day. Listen, if I had a list of 24 agents to call and I pick up my phone and the first 5 answer, winner, chicken dinner. I might not even have to make the rest of the phone calls that day because my objective of the day is to make 1 Zoom appointment per day.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, this is you're scaling this just on that source.
Just on that one source, you're right. It could be different. I wanted to give some form of tangible, but if you've got a warm, somebody coming to you, these numbers are all off because your chances of closing somebody that came to you is a lot higher, right? I just wanted to give perspective on how many people should I be talking to in the year? And I trust me when I tell you, if you actually did talk to in the course of an entire year, almost 6,000 people, Jay, you'd probably exceed the 30 goal. I know you would, because your conversion ratio is going to be a lot higher than an average or beginner agent attraction recruiter or whatever you want to call them, right? So, but that should be an encouragement that it really is just time on task over time, right? And so how do you know you're on the right track to do the right things each and every day? And that leads us to the actual monthly habits tracker. Okay, and these are dialed in. These days match. Okay, these are the real days of each month, and broken down per week so that you can get a month and you can get the month goals and actual, and also the week goal and actual, and you can compare that against your rev share goals each month. Okay, and so each month you put in the new starting. And then you put in the month end. Did you increase at all? Did you decrease? Did you stay the same? And it just helps understand, how are we growing? Are we growing? Keeping your eye on the prize at all times is how you stay motivated. Okay. It's no secret, like, hey, you can put some posters on your wall, you can make some really nice graphics in front of you, to help you visualize your success every single day. And if you will set aside time in your calendar to actually focus on agent attraction consistently, the work that you do will compound over time. And that's another thing that he talks about in Atomic Habits. If I do, let's say I do an hour a day, 5 days a week for the entire year, the hour that I put in the first day looks nothing like the hour on the last day. Okay, what do I mean by that? The hour that you first put in is highly inefficient, ineffective. The hour that you put in at the end of all of this consistency is highly effective and highly efficient and can produce way more results than the first hour. And so people think that it's a linear line. It's not a linear line. It's a exponential growth curve, because what happens is you compound your skill sets. You compound your emotional intelligence, your ability to read people, your ability to handle objections, your ability to explain things more clearly and effectively. Your skill level will increase in a compounding fashion, so that the last hour of that year looks completely different than the first one, if you do it consistently. So anyways, as you go through the entire month and you put in your days, you put in your attempts. So let's say that today is Friday. I made 32 attempts. I actually spoke to 4 people. I set 1 Zoom. I was not able to explain anything that day because I just set the Zoom and did not meet with them, right? And then the next day, let's say I did work on a Saturday and I did, I don't know, 12 calls. I spoke to 2 people. I set 1 Zoom and actually explained one of the Zooms from the previous day. All right. And you get my point is it's going to fill in the actuals of what you actually did. Okay. And then it's going to total it for the year. Notice what I just put in for January is totaling. Okay. And so by the end of the year, you'll either see results or excuses. And only you would be able to know what happened, right? And this is like a really great accountability tool if it's being used as an accountability tool. Again, I don't care if you use this tool at all. I want people to be successful. If this tool is helping you be successful, great. If this tool is daunting and like crazy and you don't feel like learning how to use it, and you'd rather use your notepad next to your computer, then by all means, use your notepad. Gene Frederick carries around a binder. I've seen him do this message before. I've actually seen him several times on stage. And if you don't know who Gene Frederick is, we lovingly call him Papa Gino. Okay, he's like one of the godfathers at EXP. He's on the board. He's attracted a ton of agents. He's probably over, I don't know, 12 or 15,000 agents in his revenue share group. And he carries around a binder with loose leaf notebook paper. He has a conversation and he writes their name on a sheet of paper, starts a fresh sheet of paper for them. And then you know what he does? Every day that goes by, he takes that name and he writes it on the next sheet and the next sheet and the next sheet. He's written their name so many times that he can't stop thinking about them. Do you think that's going to increase his follow-up? Of course. Do you think that's going to increase him thinking about the next objection handler, the next meeting that he's going to have with them? Absolutely. So again, there's no real wrong way. The only wrong way to track is to not track. Okay. Same goes for real estate leads. Okay. This is not new. I'm not saying anything new, right? The difference between this and using a CRM for agent attraction is that this is strictly the numbers, not the people, not their names or anything. This is just, did I put in the numbers today to get the results later? Okay, now I highly do encourage you to use something for a CRM, whether it's a notepad, remember that a CRM is just customer relationship management. However you manage those people. You can use CRM Grow. You can use Trello. You can use Asana. Those are just project management tools. You can use KV Core. I've seen that being used. You can use whatever you want to. You can use Pipedrive. You can use Chime. Any CRM will work. That's not the question. It's, are you going to track? You can use a spreadsheet. You've got to keep track of who you're talking to. And if you're going to go and treat this like a business, think to yourself, how would a business run instead of how would a hobbyist do this? Because if a hobbyist is doing this, probably won't track ever. They'll just go and just have fun with it, which is fine. But a hobbyist is not going to have the same results as a business that's driven towards success. Okay, so I personally use CRM Grow. I have a pipeline set up for each stage that I'm talking to people. And at the end of the day, it takes me, I don't know, 4, 5, 10 seconds to say, how many attempts did I make? 23, because I'm doing little tallies as the day goes on or whatever. And how many people did I talk to? That's going to be a lot smaller number. So I'm going to know that number, right? I just jot that down. So at the end of the day, if you just take 2 minutes and do a little bit of tracking, by the end of the year, you will blow your mind on what you've been able to accomplish if you will actually focus and do it. And then what you're going to see is negative tendencies that you can catch before they creep in to become a month or 6 months of negative. If you're tracking every day and every week, it's hard to lose track for 6 months. Okay. All right, we're going to open up some Q&A. I know I've used most of the time. We got 7 minutes. Let's just talk about kind of what are you using to track, and what are you thinking as far as all of this habits and tracking my daily stuff?
I use Trello to track. And the thing is too is the tracker that you have, those numbers seem pretty daunting, especially if you're only focused on one source of input for opportunities. So it doesn't need to be like that. But also, obviously, Atomic Habits is just staying consistent on the daily day-to-day operations with anything. If you think it's too astronomical or out of reach, then obviously what you focus on or what you believe is true, whether it's hard or easy. It's obviously it's up to you. But staying consistent is obviously the most important. Keeping in track and making sure that when you are talking to agents, it's coming from obviously a value proposition, and figuring out how to crack the code to figure out how their business fits in the model. Sure. Just don't regurgitate information. And that's why listening is such a huge part of agent attraction. Is hey, what do you got going on? Tell me what your business looks like, what's going on, and then I'm going to tell you how that fits into the EXP model to maximize your return and what your goals are. So
yeah, definitely needs analysis, right? You're asking them questions, probing, and you're going to answer the questions that they care about for sure. Anybody else use something else for tracking, or have we not gotten there yet?
I just keep notes in a notebook. I'm old school.
Okay.
I want to get it. I want to get it back into something. Whether I'm curious, maybe to see if Trello works for me or not. Or I think I could just put it into KV Core as well, like you said. I have all the agents' information in there anyway. Might as well set up some reminders to follow up through that.
Jeff, if I give you a complete agent attraction system, will you use it?
Of course I will.
Okay, I'll send you a link. I'm serious.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody have any success or objections or anything they're having with communicating agent attraction?
Well, Jay, I want to touch on what Randy said before too about the percentages that some people will have the right intentions to come over and then all of a sudden things happen. We just experienced that. We've been talking with an agent for a while who signed up, everything was ready to go. The brokerage held her license.
Who reached out to Jeff? Jeff
Yeah,
didn't
she
even,
reached out to me directly.
yeah,
It was one of those things, contacted me direct. And quite honestly, it makes complete sense for her to come over here.
we had a great call. Had
Yeah,
a great
We,
Zoom.
I don't think we didn't do anything wrong. It's just that when push came to shove and they held her license, they offered her a position that in her mind she couldn't refuse. Because of the role that she was, taking on. My guess is she'll be over here within 6 to 12 months still, though.
Right. Because big picture, it was what we were going to do for her over here.
Right.
With still more opportunity here than there.
Right.
So, but it's a thing too, is like, you almost need that person to self-realize. You
Right.
can't.
You have no control what the other brokerage is going to do. Like the way she put it to me, she's like, this is something I've been asking for years. And they finally gave it to her as she's ready to head out the door.
Yeah.
And, I had a few things to say about that. But at the end of the day, I said, listen, it's your decision. It's your business. Whatever fits for you is what fits for you,
Right.
But the door is always open and we're going to be here. And of course, I already have it set up to follow up with her in a month, just to kind of give it some time to settle. And hey, how's it going?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I always, it always boggles my mind that agents think somehow it's going to be different now in the future than it has been in the past, when it's like,
Right.
why didn't you give me those things all along instead of waiting until I wanted to leave? I don't ever think that that's going to be.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, you can ask that question about it's humans. It's human nature. Why do people stay in bad relationships forever? Right? It's like, this isn't rocket science. Why people have bad, marriages or anything, and they just keep going back, right? With the hope that it's going to be better, but we know the answer. It's the same concept. It's not, it's baffling, right? But it's not surprising.
And it's going to happen. You're gonna have that small percentage of people that have the right intentions and ready to go, and then they disappear. But I think it's up to us to touch back with them again, not give up on it. And,
Of course,
because I truly believe that was a mistake on her part. I mean, it's not for me to say, but my opinion of it was a bad move. But she has to figure that out for herself, and then she'll come over.
yeah.
That's why I always use the phrase self-realization through education. They have to realize they need to be here. I'd love to hear from some other folks on the call. What are you guys using to track? And by the way, we are at time in the next minute. So if you've got to bounce, totally bounce. I'll stick around for another 5. But is anybody using anything else to sort of track your daily habits, whether it's a CRM or something else?
No, I haven't been at all, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. And so it really just comes down to how often either per day or per week are you doing agent attraction, Ingrid?
I don't have a set schedule, and I think that's what my problem is. I think I have to be a little bit more organized and block that time out, like you said, like an hour,
Right.
Each day, which really isn't that much.
Right.
No, especially I would just honestly start with a list of every single agent you've ever done a transaction with. Like that's how I would start. And kind of see what those numbers look like. And then, kind of go from there. And then you can go into every agent that has ever showed one of your listings. Like you can just kind of keep going down.
Every
making lists.
Every agent that's in your Facebook as a Facebook friend.
Mm-hmm.
There is already some connection, whether it's a great connection or not. There's a connection.
I do on Facebook, all my realtors, I actually have a group. So when I'm posting things like today, I posted my Brokers Open. I only went to realtors. I didn't do it public.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's tons of opportunity. It's just obviously just taking action. And the thing is too, is like, I tell agents, if there are starting to get like pushback on a conversation or anything like that, I will say, I go, listen, the information I'm providing you is going to be a lot more beneficial to you than it is going to be me. You will get more out of this brokerage than I would get out of you coming to the brokerage. So just so, perspective is there. So sometimes I do that.
I like that. And that's true for,
because people think like, oh, if I come over, some people get in their heads like, oh, if I come over, Jay's going to retire. Not whatsoever. That's not the case whatsoever. Right. So I got to kind of paint the perspective or, the situation like that.
And also anyone who's nervous about making the calls, like making these proactive dials, obviously the biggest fear is rejection. They're going to say no, and if they do say no, it kind of kills your confidence and pushes off the calls another week, another month, and they don't wind up getting made. The thing that helped me out the most in the beginning was speaking to the agents that I was doing deals with. Because when you're having deals with these people, obviously they're trying to keep everything on the best terms possible, really cordial, and you're going to see them multiple times. You're going to see them for the showings, you're going to see them during inspections potentially, you're going to see them throughout the process. And I have a couple of touch points with them in the middle, not so much in the beginning. I don't want them to think it's all about that, but I have a couple of touch points in the beginning, and then I really try and have a conversation at the end, kind of joking around like, hey, when am I going to bring you over to EXP? You're a phenomenal agent in this area, and kind of like stroke their ego a little bit. And most of the times, oh, I heard this, I heard that, this like kind of some of the lies and false information are out there. And as soon as you kind of squash a couple of those things, like, oh, that's not true, or oh, that's not the case, they're a little bit more open to having the conversation. I'm not saying that you're going to close those agents. I'm just saying it's going to be a warmer conversation and maybe give you a little confidence boost going into the cold calls.
Definitely.
I have an example of a broker that showed one of my listings, and she called me and asked me some questions about the listing or whatever, and I started talking about some software and some tech that she didn't know about, and that led into a deeper conversation. And so I offered her value, gave her like, hey, you should check out this software. It's really cool. Her little independent brokerage didn't have anything, no tech stack whatsoever. Gave her some value, and that led to more and more conversation. Ultimately, she actually decided to retire and get out of real estate completely, but that's not on me, right? I took the actions to start the conversations. I can't predict what's going to happen, but at least there's a shot.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, obviously there are certain things that are completely out of your control.
Sure.
It also, it's same thing with real estate business and, rev share or anything in life is what's your recovery time? What's your rebound time? How long are you going to dwell on something that didn't go your way? And anything, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to get out of bed this morning because this didn't go my way. Like, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way, because then you're letting your feelings dictate how your life is going to be, or you're letting your mind dictate how your life is going to be. It needs to be the other way around. You need to have some checks and balances, the right mindset, and be like, hey, listen, I'm driving this ship. My mind, the thing that's sitting between my shoulders isn't just dictating everything that happens during the day. Even though my head is so large, I just use it as a counterweight. So when I want to walk forward, I just tilt forward, and I just try to catch up to my head, so.
Ingrid, you mentioned about booking time and scheduling. One of the things that I set for myself in the next, I actually did it for this week, and I'm a little bit behind, but Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm doing 2 hours in the morning for real estate prospecting. Tuesday and Thursday, 2 hours in the morning for agent attraction prospecting. That way, 3 days out of the week is my main focus is to try to sell real estate. And then my objective is to set a meeting later that day or the next day, right? A buyer or seller appointment. And my objective in agent attraction is to set an agent attraction meeting that day or the next day. So if you spend the morning booking meetings, then you can go on those meetings in the afternoons. Just one way to do it.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're at time. Awesome call. If anybody has any thoughts whatsoever, throw it in the Pinnacle Partners chat in Facebook, and we'll continue the conversation. I'm going to turn this into a YouTube video, and I'm going to throw it in there later.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy.
Yep.
See you later, everybody.
See you
Have a
guys
great
soon.
day.
Grab the document.